further analyze this, and joining me to better understand what's happening in the news is Mr. Akin Fatoke. He is a chartered accountant and he joins us now via the phone. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Fatoke.
Thank you very much, Madam Omobalanle. And let me say good morning to Nigerians who are in Nigeria and friends of Nigeria, wherever you may be. It's nice to be here.
Let's begin with this story coming from the IOCs, talking about the federal government describing the divestment by the international oil companies from Nigerian oil and gas sector, describing it as a threat to the industry, and also challenging indigenous oil producers to see the IOCs divestment as an opportunity for Nigerian firms to, take advantage of the development. What are your thoughts on this story?
So my thoughts on this story is not to smile. Perhaps to go back to my books of history to say that what we are witnessing today has been predicted. It's been predicted at least within the past 10 years. 26 oil mining licenses divested in 11 years and more to go. Investments in the oil and gas have been voting. We've been seeing the results of the votes in players running away from Nigeria on account of the unfriendly, totally unfriendly business climate. And the PIA, which eventually got busted after a lot of crawling, again was like an euphoria. You do say better late than never. But somehow, somewhat, that itself has not been allowed to fly. It's not been allowed to fly because of other internal contradictions. As regards us facing the bullet and asking us to be able to attract investment in that sector. I am not surprised. I think it is likely to get worse. I don't want to be a prophet of doom. It's not only going to get worse. Of the 5 upstream companies that we have with foreign interest, we talk about Shell, we talk about Total Energies, we talk about Chevron, we talk about ExxonMobil, and we talk about ENI. Actually, all of them, most of them, let me say, have indicated the fact that the harsh environment is driving them off. Where is it taking them to? Places like Angola. Angola is now becoming the real capital of oil gas production in the sub-region. I sympathize, and I say this with sense of responsibility, with my brother, Bega Komolafe, the regulatory Nigeria Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, SAR. I sympathize with him, and he talked about the fact that the oil and gas industry can be looked at from the SWOT perspective. The threats are there. I've just mentioned them, and you also mentioned them in your opener, Mobalanle. And hey, I dare say his enumeration of the opportunities. I am afraid, having worked in that industry, is not backed by fundamentals. Yes, it's true. It's true. The indigenous constitute about 30% of the gas, 20% of food. 30% of gas, so 40 to 33% of oil and gas. But where is the enabler? Where are the competencies? Where is the ingenuity to be able to work that
Mr. Fatuke, let's tie that with this story. This one coming from the National Bureau of Statistics, saying that, or revealing some huge statistics here, that Nigeria spent 292.56 billion naira on importation of aviation fuel. That's the Jet A1 in the first 3 months of the year. That's between January and March 2022. And the report reveals that the first quarter of 2022 represented a significant increase of 287.29% when compared to 75.54 billion naira that was spent on the import of the same commodity in the fourth quarter of 2021. This figures seem to be skyrocketing, despite the fact that the nation is going through some, inflationary pressures. Mr. Fatuke.
Yes, it's just like the IOC divesting. They are shame of shame, as some people will say, that because we have run ourselves down, we have been extremely very weak in our physical program and policies in the oil and gas. We don't even know what exactly is happening as regards who is doing what in that industry. There's a lot of non-transparency that goes on, and at the end of the day, please, let's just name it exactly as it is. As long as we continue to shy away from full value pricing, we will always continue to get what we are getting. Now, the aviation statistics that we have reeled, I'd like to tell you that it is going to be worse. It's going to be worse because our refining capacity has not been enhanced. If you didn't do that yesterday, you do not expect that today you are going to wake up and you're going to be able to see something. People firstly look at Dangote and talk about Dangote. Dangote, yes, a good story, but it's still struggling. And towards the end of the value chain, eventually will be when, I don't know, we might be getting into the aviation. Now, this kerosene type jet fuel, where we are at now, happened to us at one point in time. Yes, that industry has been deregulated. But if you still put a price, so a ceiling on pricing of the aviation operators, it will not go. The operational cost is going higher. The Platts, which is the crude price in the international market, is going higher, and they have no choice but to want to scale down their operational costs.
So what's the way out? What's the way out of these issues, especially when it comes to the downstream sector? We know that it affects every byproduct of crude oil, the aviation, the aviation fuel.
To embrace the truth and tell yourself that you have failed. We have not run it well. And we must, there's going to be a lot of gnashing of teeth. There is no doubt about that. There's also another cost that I have to tell you. People, the regulators must now wake up. And if that has been suspended, it's part of the reasons why you brought in contaminated fuel the other time. And contaminated fuel has been brought in, commingled. People go buy kerosene, commingled with diesel. What has gone up, and then kerosene starts to blow in people's faces. I don't pray that is going to happen, and pray starts to come down. And so the only way is to be able to increase the price. If you are going to increase the price, you will shout, I will shout, Labour will shout, we can only shout. We are not looking at those fundamentals that needs to be done. So what needs to be done is a total restructure of the oil and gas, all aspects of it. And for us to embrace the fact that because we have not done our homework, we cannot be sitting down here today and say we want to write exam and then we expect to pass. There must be failure, there must be a lot of falling down, there must be a lot of regulation, and then the end result being the fact that we need to get appropriate pricing. I think situations where those who may not be able to afford, we have to be able to do a kind of scaling. If you are going to have to cushion in some aspect, people can run into some other
Mr. Akin Fasika, there's also a person issue here. Sorry to butt in. There's a person issue here reporting that there was no mention of jet fuel imports in the foreign trade statistics of the NBS, despite the country recording total imports of 6.85 trillion naira for the period. Are there issues of accountability or transparency here?
No. There are issues that are well known. We are talking of perhaps this time last year. But this time this year, of course, you know, the cost of actually production has gone up. The cost of our inefficiencies have gone up. The cost of the fact that we are working in darkness has gone up. Diesel to power certain things has gone up. And then essentially the cost of plant has also gone up. And devaluation has taken away the capacity to be able to go and get foreign exchange. You know, we still run this foreign exchange, official rate, black rate, and all that kind of, all those distortions are the things that we are beginning to see. If you look at what we imported from China, from Netherlands, from Belgium, and from India, total 3.44 trillion imports. We either have to print money, which directly or indirectly might be happening, depending on how true and how real opaque the Central Bank of Nigeria is going to be, or you can continue to borrow. And when you continue to borrow, whether domestically or, you know, from there, our debt stock, our leverage, you know, our gearing, you know, continues to go high. What then exactly are we talking about? We are not talking about infrastructure. We are not talking about education. We are not talking about health, which itself is a comatose. Bloomberg has said to us, Nigeria, we need to wake up, face the coffee. Can we increase refining capacity? Yes, we can, but at what cost? And it's not something that is going to happen tomorrow or next tomorrow. We need a lot of funds to be able to put that in place and put the appropriate pricing, appropriate structure, appropriate persons to be able to do it. Allow the PIA to fly. This is now the time that Labour and all other stakeholders must sit down and sit around the table. It's not just a question of saying you cannot do. You cannot do, yes.
All right, noted. But how do you marry that? How do you marry that with the fact that there's a statistics released by the CBN saying that daily reserves movement in the country amid the increasing price of crude oil, Nigeria's external reserves depreciated by $1.37 billion or 3.37% in the first 6 months of 2022 to $39.16 billion as of June 30 from $40.52 billion it closed in 2021. How do you marry that with the increasing price of crude oil?
They are all linked. You have a father, son, and a grandfather situation. I don't know which one comes first. Is it the son that becomes the father? Is it the father that becomes the grandfather? Is it the grandfather that dies and becomes the son? They are all linked. Again, what is happening is that we have a fragile economic growth. We have escalating inflation. Our revenue base is climbing to about 90% of servicing debt. I mean, you don't need rock science, finance degree or economic degree for you to know that you are just not there. We have this restricted Eurobond market assets. Capital outflows are going. I mean, you talk earlier about IOC divesting and they're going elsewhere. The production is going down. We all know it. The Niger Delta oil theft is going there on a regular daily basis. Within and late, the language of accountancy, the CBN keeps on intervening in the foreign exchange market because we have not allowed it in a way to go. Yeah, like telecoms, it will be very hard and harsh at the initial stage, but then you can then begin to now then draw in a lot of funds. FBI coming in little bit here and there, and then the almighty of them all. The almighty of them all is the issue surrounding security. Now, when you have high interest payments relative to physical revenues, You expose Nigeria to interest rates and growth shocks. That is exactly what we are having now. So what we just need? We need a total, what do you call it now? We have to set and say there is a state of emergency in the Nigerian economy right now, and that is the truth. It has to fall into right hands. We need to begin to build again, carry the people along, be transparent in all the things that we need to do, lead by example, and making sure we put right pegs in right holes. Until that is done, I am afraid the foreign exchange buffer that the CBN is talking about, which in January averaged 40 billion, sliding to 39 billion between February and April, and now hovering around 38 billion. And don't forget the Ukraine crisis and Russian crisis, directly or indirectly, because our own shooting ourselves in the foot with security is killing our agri. Our food prices are soaring. I hope my country, Nigeria, will begin to look at what is happening in Ghana and not saying, I'm pointing a finger and saying it's happening in Ghana. It's right now knocking on our doors. If you look at the kind of anger that is going on, that we want to do elections, see the anger that is going on. NSAS and the attendant people who came to see the NSAS for their own other ends is staring us in the face. Nigeria, again, is hovering between a pendulum. Are we failed? Are we failing? Or are we continually deceiving ourselves? All indices. Look at all what you just mentioned today. Just talking about the external reserves, talking about IOC divestment. You just mentioned the aviation fuel. Aviation or jet fuel or kerosene jet fuel is just one. Talking about diesel, which has gone up. Talking about where the whole world is going, and they are shifting their paradigm. My own country is still talking about fossil fuels, hydrocarbons. We are still flaring gases. Talking about we want to do modular refineries, which in itself.
All right, let's wrap it up with this final one coming from the Debt Management Office. You already touched on the fact that there's a budget deficit, of course, which the federal government is borrowing to finance. And of course, this story is saying that the first half of 2022 saw the federal government raising a total of 1.84 trillion naira through the FGN bond market to finance the 6.26 trillion naira budget deficit. And of course, that's coming from the DMO. And you already touched on that. But it looks like there is no end to the borrowings, Mr. Fatuke.
Well, if there's no end to a borrowing, it means that your demand and your appetite for what you use the borrowing for, including smuggling, including theft, including lack of putting your priorities in place. And then, again, the external shocks that is getting logistics not right. If COVID-19 happened today, what happened COVID-19 if it happened today? Only God in heaven will be able to, to help Nigeria. So you keep on borrowing. I think what the DMO office under Ms. Patience Oniha has done is to now then look at it and say, look, internal borrowing versus external borrowing. And by 1.84 trillion naira through the bonds, clearly oversubscribed, with a yield of 12.50% on average, higher than the relative earnings that you can have in interest. And because they say to you and I that it is safe, the vault risk is low, and that interest income is tax exempt. The question I would like to now ask is, who is going to do this? Is it people who don't have jobs, who don't have earnings, people who have actually gone into their earnings that have been eroded, or people who have had their hands in the till, or people who, for whatever reason, have been able to corner the Commonwealth of states into their coffers? So again, which is the fourth one. So we have grandfather, father, son, and the neighbor. Everything all pointing towards the fact that the Nigerian economy is highly troubled. The Nigerian economy, with the high interest payments and the physical revenue, with revenue exposure that we have, and the fact that the Nigerian economy is not producing. If you understand.
All right, Mr. Fatuke, we have to wrap this up. I'd like to get your final thoughts.
People just consuming and consuming. Somebody has to come. If somebody has to come and look at it very critically and take a decision. And
all right, let's wrap this up with your final thoughts on all these stories, Mr. Fatuke.
Okay, my final thoughts on all these stories, again, beyond statistics, beyond numbers and all that, my friends will tell you in a statistical good job. I say I don't have food, I don't have light, I don't have water, and then our democracy is seems to be wobbling, and there is lack of security. I say we need real men and women who will be able to raise their hands up and say that we have run ourselves to the ground. We need a lot of transparency. We need to do something very drastic about our security situation, and we need to begin to now enhance production. Our students who have been staying indoors for 5 months, 6 months going, when the dividend of all this is going to happen, it's going to look worse than the way we are looking.
All right, we'll leave it there now, Mr. Fatuke. Thank you so much for the insights.
Thank you very much,
Fatuke. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me
on Business Breakfast. Have a good day. All right, we'll take a break now. When we come back, it will be time to delve into other topical issues. Please stay with us.